Hi, I'm Greg Braxton with the Los Angeles Times, and we're here today to talk about Masterpiece Theater's wonderful production of Les Miserables, and we are conversing that topic today with Lily Collins, who plays the Doom Seatrance Fantine. It's an incredible performance.
Thank you so
You're
much.
sort of a spoiler alert that you're kind of dispatched early on, but your
Right.
performance just sort of permeates the whole production
Thank you
and
so
you sort of
much.
cast this spell, which really
Thank
really
you.
is effective. So to start off, I interviewed Dominic West, who plays Jean Valjean in this production, and he said when he was first approached about getting involved that his first reaction was kind of, what's the point? Because the musical has such a dominant place in popular culture now. It's everywhere, and it's sort of a lot of people may not know it's based on a famous, novel or whatever. What was your reaction when you were first approached about it?
Well, I had a slightly different experience than Dominic or David. I was approached to audition. So I got the email from my team, and I right away thought, what? They want me to audition for this? This is incredible. I had friends that were in the musical film version, and I thought after that had been done that was it, kind of it would never be done again, or in what way would it be done? So the fact that it was coming through as a limited TV series with the opportunity to do 6 episodes and it to be a non-musical felt like the next phase of the story. And so I quickly said yes to auditioning, but I was in the middle of production for 2 other things at the time. So I happened to be in London when the audition was randomly, and I went in for that audition, and our director, Tom Shanklin, had just had a baby. He was late to the audition, so I had to do it without him. He ran into the room as I was finishing my scene, which happened to be one of the scenes with Felix, and then completely opposite was the scene where I'm fighting for my life on the street. And I had just gotten through the scene, and Tom runs in, and I'm like, I'm sorry, I have to catch a train. I'm about to go shoot something. And he said,
Wow.
I'll watch the tape. And I left and went to Paris. And ironically, in Paris, got a call 2 or 3 days later that I had got the job. So it was a very bizarre happening for me. But I was so thrilled to even have the opportunity to audition, because growing up loving the West End and Broadway, you really feel like that musical, obviously, like you said, like it permeates that industry and our industry. And growing up knowing the novel, it just felt like a step that hadn't been taken yet to take it to TV.
So were you intimidated at all by the fact that Anne Hathaway had
Right.
won an Oscar for this?
I think it was a blessing for us, or for me at least, that it wasn't going to be a musical version, because it was automatically different. And she so beautifully captured Fantine in the film, and yes, won the Oscar for it. And so this was TV, non-musical, and we get to really show the beginning parts of Fantine's life that we haven't really seen on screen before. Sometimes what is left to only a song lyric about her falling in love and having a child and being left now gets a full episode. So those were the moments that Tom, my director, had said, this is where you get to insert more of you. This hasn't been shown before. So if ever there was an opportunity to bring it to life in your own way, this is the time. And so that actually, it took a lot of pressure off of me, because I felt maybe there'd be less comparison. But he also really focused on not rewatching the movie, not rewatching the musical for prep, focus on the actual text, and talk to Andrew Davies. Let's discuss it with the cast about what we want to do. So he wasn't stressing about rewatching any of what had been done before.
So when your performance, I mean, it's truly heartbreaking to see what your character goes through. What was the process, and how did you get into actually embodying all the torture that this character goes through?
Well, this production came this production came at the very end of me having just done another film, and that film was a film about Ted Bundy, which was quite dark anyway. And so I had a week of transition between that film that I was shooting in Kentucky and then moving to Brussels for Les Mis. So I was already in quite a dark headspace. And fortunately, / also annoyingly, for Les Mis, we shot the end of my life first. So my second day of filming was my death sequence, or my death scene.
Did you know that was?
I knew it a couple weeks leading in, and ironically, in the Ted Bundy film, I don't die, and then I died right away in Les Mis. So I got to carry whatever remnants of that project and the darkness of that into the beginning of filming for myself for Fantine. And we were shooting in Brussels, dead of winter. It was -13 some days. We were shooting outside a lot at night. My character is wearing minimal clothing. So it was, I used the environment and the overall feeling of my character, as well as the locations. Everything about the beginning of my time in Brussels was very helpful for creating the end of Fantine's life. And I think I was just so supported on set. I had an amazing supporting cast that were so present with me in every moment, and so giving and so nurturing, and Tom was so enthusiastic and passionate and supportive as well. So I really felt like I had a very safe environment to be vulnerable, and I really enjoyed being able to take Fantine to the dark places that we did, because I knew I'd have the opportunity to show her in such a lightness at the beginning of her life later when I shot it in the summer. So to be able to have a character that in such a short amount of time has to go from one extreme to the other is a real gift as an actor, because you get to really stretch yourself. And I was very nervous, going into it to do those scenes first, because I thought, this is an iconic character who is, she's a mother, she's all these things that I'm not a mother yet, and so there's all these things that I had to kind of tap into that were so important for Fantine. But I felt very supported and able to kind of just let go.
So what was that? How do you prepare to die?
Yeah, I'd never had a death scene before in anything. I did a lot of research on the diseases of the time and different symptoms of what she would have contracted at the time, in her becoming a prostitute and the cold and all these things that she would have been feeling. And I just did some research online about symptoms and things that they might be showing, and then again used my environment. I was freezing, so my lips tend to go quite blue anyway when I'm cold. But I was shivering, and then I had these hot packs all over my body because it was so cold that I started then sweating. So then I had the hot flashes, and then I was crying, and then so I was kind of choking back tears, and then I was actually kind of choking at one point because she's supposed to be choking from blood, but I was having trouble. I had these this like retainer in the top of my mouth with 2 green screen teeth, because I have no 2 front teeth in the end of her life. And so then it was like choking back saliva. It was just, there was a lot going on, but it was really helpful. And then I don't know, I thought maybe she'd start twitching and these kind of weird quirks that one would potentially do at the last moments of their death. And I remember Dominic leaning over me in these moments. Sometimes he'd make me laugh because he'd be staring at these green teeth that looked bizarre. And I'm like, don't make me laugh. I'm supposed to be dying here. And then he'd be like, that's great. Where'd the twitching come from? I think I want to use that in my death scene. It's like, I don't know. I just thought kind of you can always add too much. And then I knew Tom would say, bring it back or amp it up. So it was just kind of throwing in everything and seeing what worked.
So we get to really fall in love with the lightness and sort of purity of Fantine, which makes her fate even more horrific. Things that were only referred to, like you said, with a line in the musical, we get to see it just developed full on. There's, several scenes, but one scene in particular is when she is betrayed by her lover. And that's played out in a really just incredibly horrific fashion. And during that scene, when you realize that you've been betrayed, most of your acting is with your face. You don't have a line. You're just sort of realizing what has happened and that your whole life is falling apart. What was that like to go through?
Thank you. What you're saying is very much part of what I loved about this rendition, is that we really do get to see the beginning stages of Fantine's story, and because we see her fall in love and we as an audience are wooed by Felix as well, when we see the betrayal happen, you feel even more empathy towards what happens to Fantine in the end. You're more invested than perhaps you would have been before, because you actually saw her be betrayed. And the scene when Felix and his friends leave us, it really could be equated to modern day ghosting that a lot of young women go through. I know I've gone through it. I've written about the fact that I've gone through it multiple times. And when you think you know someone so well, and then at the drop of a hat, they're just gone. And it's that realization that maybe some of your friends tried to warn you. Maybe you knew yourself, but you didn't want to admit to it. And not wanting to lean into that betrayal and showing it necessarily, but also realizing that you have been fooled. And it's that fine line between sometimes words aren't going to properly express what it is that you're feeling, and it's that processing of information that is almost more powerful than the articulation of that. And for her, her friends did warn her, and I think she's a little ashamed that she wasn't more aware and that she was swept up in it. But I think.
But the audience is also wooed by feelings.
I know.
You
It's
just
really
don't see this
hard.
coming.
But that's the thing, is that sometimes that happens, and it doesn't matter how aware of a person you are, how strong you are, and how intuitive you are. It just can happen. And I think because she's someone who's so passionate and someone who's so positive, and she just believes in love so much, she wanted it so badly, and that's what makes it so even more heartbreaking for her.
The other parts of your performance, the scene where Fantine, she's fallen so far that she has to sell herself on the street, and at one point she has, as you were saying, her teeth extracted, which is basically impossible to watch without it's just a really, and that's something that the musical doesn't get close to, but it's gruesome. It's just really just a horrific thing. So go through that process of embodying that.
Yeah, what was interesting, Tom was very adamant to me in that scene that any emotion that's coming from Fantine at that moment, whether it be however that came out, whether it was crying, whether it was just very still, everything was coming out of the physicality of what was happening to her, the pain of having your front two teeth pulled by pliers, and the pain of having your hair and your head hacked into with the most blunt of knives. So she wasn't upset about having to cut her hair or pulling her teeth. It wasn't for vanity's sake. It was any emotions were mainly felt because it was just so utterly painful. So he wanted it to not come across that I was upset that my hair was, being cut for those reasons. So really leaning into the pain of what that would feel like. And Jackie Fowler, who is the head of the hair and makeup department, is so genius. When she was explaining what my look was going to be, and that it would just be so super visceral in the hacking of the hair. And, I had all this hair underneath that wig. There was a bald cap plus the wig, so that when they really cut into the wig, you would see what looked like skin and scalp, and then they would add blood or whatnot because he would have just been hacking haphazardly. Ron Cook, who plays the hair and teeth puller, he's kind of like a Gene Wilder, Willy Wonka type character who is very intense but also very whimsical, and so he's very captivating. And when he at the beginning, when he's wooing her in to kind of try to sell her teeth, you can't help but go, yeah, I'll do that, sure. And then once you get in, he's very calming, and he was trying to make it all about Fantine being comfortable, and then he's just going at it. And I think the horror of that for her and what it is that she's actually having to do for her daughter. She's willing to because she loves her daughter and wants to provide for her, but counter to that is this immense pain that she's feeling because of what he's doing. So it's a bit of a horror moment of sorts as well for her, and them having to hold me down and just really amping up the fear and the pain is what Tom wanted.
Wow, was that a dark day for you on this?
You know, it's interesting. The cast and crew were so wonderful on this production, and sometimes the darkest projects that I have done have the happiest crews because everyone's trying to counterbalance the subject matter, and everyone was very respectful of those moments in which I have to go through and I'm very vulnerable and raw and emotional, but everyone also really tried hard to make it a very fun, light environment. And our director, he's the most calm person I've ever been on a set with, no matter if you're in the barracks or you're being wooed in Paris by your lover. He is so calm and so passionate, and so his energy on set always made everyone very excited to be there and very positive. So during filming, we got to kind of make it a little bit lighter. So of course it was those moments were very dark, but I was happy to have an environment in which it didn't feel dark all the time, so I could switch off for a second and then go back into it.
Well, that's great.
Yeah.
There's some viewers who have watched your performance who have some questions that they've
Great.
sent in. From Julie LCF. Did you discover something about yourself as a person or as an actress while playing Fantine?
That's a great question. I remember when I was first starting out, and quite a few people had said to me, and I didn't really understand at the time, but let go more, let go, let go. And I'm like, I am letting go. I don't know what you're talking about. Like, be more vulnerable, be more in the moment. Because I think when I was younger, I would come prepared with, this is what I wanted to do, this is how I want to do it, and it was very much by the book, and it wasn't necessarily being as explorative in the character. With Fantine, there's a scene when I'm being thrown around on the street in the middle of a big crowd and having to beg for my life and ask for forgiveness, and I don't remember ever being that vulnerable and raw in a character, not only physically, taking away the physicality of how Fantine looks at that time. I've never, as an actress, been given the opportunity to look that way, which I was very, very excited about because it was a different side of me. But just having to be so raw and so vulnerable and not mindful of what anyone else was thinking or looking at, just being so present in the moment and so given into that character, I felt like I truly let everything go. And it was proof to me that, oh, that's what they meant. That's what it feels like to give absolutely everything. And at the end of the day, going to bed, sometimes battered and bruised, but always really proud. And that, knowing that I could really go there and let go was really exciting for me to then take on to the next project and to go, oh, I used to be afraid of that. Oh, I've done that now. Like, let's bring that idea to the next thing that I do and continue being more vulnerable. And it was a really, really amazing lesson to learn.
Oh, that's great. Molly at LTHQ Lily asks, what role has stuck with you emotionally the most of your career?
I mean, this particular opportunity of Les Mis and to play Fantine, I feel like was this gem that just happened to come around to me. And I think I don't know, I feel like it's going to be an unparalleled experience for me to have gone through and to have been a part of something like this. And to kind of go back to what I was just saying about lesson that I learned about myself, the fact that I can say I truly left it all there, left every part of me there. And that night when I'm on the floor, begging for forgiveness, that I left everything on the floor. I can hand over my heart, say that I can't imagine I could have given more of myself at that moment. And so I think that will always stay in my mind as a turning point for me in my career, just because I pushed myself past something I didn't know I was capable of, but also as a human being to say it's okay to just give of yourself completely and not care what anyone else is thinking, because you are fully present in a moment, and that's all that matters. And so I will always take that from this experience. Even if no one ever watched the series, the experience of making it was quite life-changing for me.
Now, another one of your acclaimed performances was in this film called To the Bone, where you play a person who's suffering from body issues and anorexia. And Millie, C of 05, wants to know, what advice would you give to someone struggling with body confidence and just self-love in general?
Well, To the Bone was also a film that I feel was something I was meant to do. It's a story that I think so many people can associate with, whether it's that person who can say they shared a similar journey to Ellen's, or a friend, a sibling. I think it's something that's very universal. And for me, you know, I always grew up with my mom saying that the quirky things that make you different are what make you beautiful. And I didn't necessarily understand that as a young woman, because sometimes different has a really negative connotation, whereas in fact the older you get, it's the different things that you have or that someone has that you're the most in awe of, or that you're the most respectful of. And I think it can be a longer journey. It's sometimes a journey that grows with you as you mature about self-love and self-confidence. But I think it's really important to surround yourself with people that make you feel like being you is enough, because if you're surrounded by that love and that support, it just helps. It helps domino effect into your own feelings of self-love and self-acceptance. And it's those people that are meant to be in your life, that accept you as who you are, that's really important. And I think it will come if you believe it, and that you have people around you that believe it.
You've really thought a lot about this, obviously.
Yeah, I have been very passionate about the subject matter of To the Bone, and I wrote a book a few years ago as well that I discuss my experiences with eating disorders as a teenager, and I just felt that it's something that I feel a lot of people are still ashamed to talk about, or just mental health in general needs to be spoken up about more, because so many people have associations with specific topics that aren't spoken about enough. And I think if we spoke up about them more, there would be less stigma attached to them. And I think growing up would be a little bit easier knowing that you're not alone. So I do feel very passionate about it.
And Jayashina wants to know, who's your role model when it comes to acting?
Oh my gosh, my role model. Well, I do love Meryl Streep. I feel like I'm not alone in saying that. But also, I have to say, I got to work a few scenes with Olivia Colman on this, and she's magnificent as Madame Thénardier. And then obviously just being a huge fan of her work and the human being that she is. She's so wonderful to be around on set. We had tea multiple times, and breakfasts and dinners, and just hearing her chat about life. She's so infectious, and she's so wonderful and so warm. And then she switches on into character of, you know, Madame Thénardier, and is wretched and awful. And just every character she portrays, she's just so different, and she's so transformative. But she is such a wonderful person, and I don't think anyone can have a bad thing to say about her. And so someone that is who they are in person, and then can switch on any role and still be that person at the core, is so admirable. And she's a wonderful mother and wife, and I just think she kind of is the prime example of having it all and being it all, and staying so true to herself with just utter grace and charm.
So before we wrap up, I want to go from the darkness of Les Mis to something lighter. We have something called a lightning round where we...
Oh, great.
So
Fun.
I'm going to fire away.
Oh, God.
What was the last show you binge watched?
Oh, Queer Eye. I'm literally binging it right now.
Really?
I love it. I love it so much. It's so addicting.
So
I cry every episode.
Were you into the old one?
I wasn't as aware of the old series. I knew of it, but at that time I wasn't really at the age where I was really binge watching. So now I think I want to go back and watch that one. But I think I binged the first 2 seasons of this new rendition all at once on Netflix, and then it just came out, and I just got back from part of my press tour, and I looked on the other night and I went, oh my God, the new season. And so I watch multiple episodes a night, and I'm a mess when I go to bed because I'm crying.
Why are you crying about?
Oh, because it's just so much more than a makeover, which is their tagline, which is totally true. It's just so touching. I don't know. The Fab Five are great. I'm like, I want them to make me over at some point. Like, it would be fun. But it really is. It's just so wonderful. And I don't know. It's very touching. And it's funny.
Okay.
Yeah, I'm a big fan.
All right.
Also Killing Eve, but that's like a totally different type
of
type of show. Killing Eve is beyond wonderful, and that's, more the dramatic route, obviously, but it's so infectious and you cannot stop watching. I think that first season was out in maybe 3 days. I finished watching it.
Wow.
Yeah, it's fantastic.
Great.
Both Sandra and Jodie, they're amazing.
Who's going to win Game of Thrones?
Okay, so I'm like a couple seasons behind. I know! Les Mis and Game of Thrones came out the same day last Sunday. It was like, I had all these friends calling me and being like, happy Game of Thrones premiere day. I'm like, thanks. P.S. Like, it's also Les Mis. They're like, yes, aren't you so excited? And I'm like, did you remember, or are you just now catching up? So I love Game of Thrones. I'm funny, like, I like to binge. Waiting week to week really stresses me out. I know that, like, when I was younger, I used to, it's like Friday nights you'd sit down and watch something and then you had to wait a week, which I was into, but now we don't have to. So now I just want to binge. I got to the point where I'm now 3 seasons behind, I think, because every time they'd all come out at once, I'd be shooting something and it would just be too intense. Oh, wow. And then I'd forget. And then it would get to the next season. I'm like, oh, I have to catch up. So I think I need, maybe like on my month off, I just need to binge 3 seasons. Please, yeah, I need a little time.
Please come back and tell us.
Right, and then I'll tell you, exactly,
okay.
Yeah.
All right.
I'll dress up.
What classic TV show would you have liked to have been on?
Ooh, a classic TV show. How classic are we talking?
Any, just...
Oh my gosh, I used to love Nick at Night. So I would watch I Dream of Jeannie, Bewitched, I Love Lucy.
Okay.
I love the Brady Bunch. I don't know, I was very into the Nick at Night back when I was younger and just moving from England. I would listen to K-Earth 101 and only oldies, and I'd watch Nick at Night. It was very old soul, very young. So those old shows were just so enjoyable to me. And I don't know, my mom and I used to sit and watch them together, so they're quite nostalgic.
Oh, how cool. What's the worst job you've ever had?
Not working for the LA Times.
Oh.
Definitely not that one, because I did work here for a little while. The worst job, I folded clothes in a retail store right when I got my license at 16. I loved the working with clothes element, and people would come in with styling tips, wanting for their daughters, because they knew that I was like the young employee. I did not love cleaning up the dressing rooms. It gave me a real, profound respect for people that work in retail, because those dressing rooms were a mess, and people just, throw things. So now if I ever go into a dressing room, I'm always back on the hanger, folded back. I couldn't imagine just leaving everything everywhere.
Because people don't care.
So no, not at all. Yeah. No. Like wrappers, on the floor, and cups.
Any
and
food?
Yeah, there was remnants of food. I'm just ew. It's like they just sat down in there, they were staring at the clothes and took a sip of something and ate a power bar and then just left it. I'm like, who are you? Weird. Yeah, not fun.
What has you more excited, Sopranos prequel or Breaking Bad sequel that's in production?
Probably the Breaking Bad.
Okay.
Yeah. I feel like it's been a while that everyone's been excited about that, as with the Sopranos, but I feel like I'm on the edge of my seat to figure out the Breaking Bad, where that's gonna go. Yeah.
Okay, cool. Well, once again, congratulations on
Thank you.
an amazing performance.
Thank you so much. I'm so happy you enjoyed
Really
it.
phenomenal production.
Thank you.
And for this and other contender chats, please tune in to latimes.com. Thank you for watching.